got to read some of the material for today. Maybe you did not yet. And maybe you got to read Shabbat. But the two things they're usually done. And when I do these classes, I usually do Shabbat and all that. But there's a lot of, of course, rules and regulations and things. There you go. Okay. And with kashrut, it's very complex, but it doesn't have to be complex. You can do it in many different ways. And as I've told all of you, sorry, Debbie, I've told all of them, when you go to the Beit Din, they don't, in a modern context, even in Denver or LA, unless it's an Orthodox Beit Din, or perhaps a conservative Beit Din, they will not ask you, are you keeping every jot and tittle of kashrut? The question is, what are you doing for kashrut? What degree do you do it? And what degree do you keep Shabbat? What choices do you make? So my job here is to give you the intelligence and the knowledge and point you in the right direction to be able to make those choices and so on. So let me also get the kashrut quiz. Okay, let me go to my Jewish learning. So we have that handy also. Is it there? Okay, my Jewish learning. So I can show you some stuff there. How many of you at this point look at my Jewish learning for additional learning? All right, who just talk, because I'm not looking at the screen right this minute. Eat. Okay, keep it kosher. Yes.
I can't. I have no sound.
You
I
can't.
can't figure out how to turn the sound on.
For me? You don't hear us?
I hear you, but you can't. I don't know how to. So you can hear
No,
me.
my Jewish learning is just a lot of articles.
I know.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear
Yeah.
me though?
We hear you fine.
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh,
We hear you
yay!
loud
I
and
got
clear.
it.
Yeah, Jewish grandma. We hear you loud and clear. Okay. So, having said that, it's the degree to which you keep this. So I want to start with this one. I'll put it up on the chat. Click to open. All right, and it's good, but it's a little bit off. Hang on a second. Maybe I have a better one. I have this longer one, this article, and I will make sure to email this to everybody also. And because I have a longer version of it, intro, kosher, okay, class order, and kashrut. And we're also going to cover the Jewish home today, which should be interesting. Shoot, kosher terms you may encounter. I have, but maybe there's another bunch of material. There's one other piece that I had. Okay, let me see if I have that one here. All right, not there. Huh. Just a second. Um, hmm. Intro, adult ed. Huh. I have it here. Adult ed intro, intro syllabus, class, no. All right, meanwhile, everybody go to the chat and open up those items and save them on your computer. Although some of them, as I said, I sent them to you also. Okay, let me go to the what I just sent. It's on there because there's a longer version of this. So what are some of the, let's do this Socratically. What are some of the reasons, if you looked at what I sent you, or even if you didn't, what are some of the reasons why people keep kosher? What do you hear sometimes, people?
To make you more holy.
Okay, so so that's what I want to explain, the word holy. Okay, who said that? That sounds like
Sam.
Sam.
It was Sam.
Okay, so I want to just explain the word kedusha. Okay, this was Shabbat material. No, that's not the one I wanted. All right. So kadosh means holy, special, when you get married, you say, behold, you are consecrated unto me as my wife, husband. And this is what I'm looking for. Kosher reasons, Shabbat reasons. No, that's not it either. Hang on. Shoot. All right, not that one. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that you have the same stuff that I am going to show you. Um, okay. Uh, Here it is. Um, why keep kosher? That's the one I was looking for. Okay. So I'm going to add this to the chat. Okay, why keep kosher? Why keep kosher turns out to be the same article that I had uh, as that I did. This is a little bit better looking. So now I'm going to open it and set it up. Put it there, your computer. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's right there. Okay. So why keep kosher is the first page of kosher reasons. So you can ignore kosher reasons, and why keep kosher is bigger and has an article after it. So now that I've got that out of the way, I'm going to I have that and that and that. All right, I'm going to keep that on there and go to share screen. Okay. All right. So I don't like to, as I told you before, I don't like to teach to the test, but in my little quiz or something that I will give you, what are the reasons why people keep Shabbat? What are the reasons why people keep kosher? This doesn't prescribe it, you must do this. But when you ask people um, of all different backgrounds why they keep kosher, the Orthodox response or someone like that will say, God told me to, it's in the Torah. But and so that is part of this. So Kedusha, this is an interesting meaning. I said, when you marry somebody, you are special to me. I am agreeing, I'm pledging my loyalty to you. So Kedusha can mean, if something is kadosh, it means keep it special. It also can mean keep it apart. Like the Torah is holy. So holiness, as what was it? Who said that? Rick, I think, said. Did we lose Rick? I don't see Rick in the group now.
Yeah, he's still here.
He's still there. Okay. Anyway, when we say we're being holy by keeping kosher, we mean it elevates, and that's the number two, it elevates the act of eating to a higher level. I feel special doing this. It makes oh, there's Rick with the pussycat. It makes it, oh, that's the dog. I'm sorry. It's big, it looks a big cat. So eating kosher makes you feel holy, special. Number three is interesting because reverence for life. When I was in like ninth grade, I started reading Albert Schweitzer, not Einstein. Albert Schweitzer was a Christian missionary, but not a bad kind. He was a very spiritual man who wrote a lot about vegetarianism, caring about life, caring about people. And so the idea with reverence for life, if you remember the movie, I didn't read the book, but in the movie, The Last of the Mohicans, they're chasing after a deer, and they shoot the deer with a bow and arrow, and then they go over to the deer and they pour water over it, and they say, "Thank you, brother deer." So we don't just go and kill something; we do it in a reverent way. Going back to Genesis, I'm not going to go put it up there, but Genesis 1 says behold, to Adam and Eve, I give you everything to eat in the garden that grows, does not mention animals. And after the flood, with the Noah story, I talked about this last week, I believe, in my sermon or discussion at services. To Noah, he says, all animals will have the fear and dread of you, the clean ones only, and it wasn't specified at that time, but in that time of human history, it was just don't eat blood and don't kill a human being and don't kill an animal and leave it there. So that the kashrut was developing over time. By the time we get to Mount Sinai, it's more specific. So there is an element of I'll get to this, by the way, and when we talk about how it's done, you cannot just go. I'm not saying you can't. It is not a Jewish thing to hunt because you kill the animal with a bow and arrow or a gun, and so it has to be killed in a prayerful way. That's why the butcher is so important. Now, number 4, again, these are just answers for why people might do it. Discipline. In Hinduism, they are also very committed to vegetarianism. I know people who are vegan. And when I was in my teens, I was vegetarian for a number of years. I went to a kosher Jewish camp, but I was still vegetarian. So it's a kind of like and also it's set apart. It's that both. It does. Hey, there's that weird guy. So you develop a sense. If you're not eating certain things, maybe you're also not drinking or smoking certain things, or running around lusting after certain people. So if you have this discipline, it is a reflection of other disciplines. Now let's get to 5, and notice that 5 and 6 are similar. Kedusha, as I said before, can also mean I hold you apart. A Jew in 18th century Germany who's fine upstanding citizen is invited to the Burgermeister's house or the local magistrate because he respects him. He says, "I'm sorry, sir, I cannot eat at your house, or I have to bring my own food." So he is set apart. So there's a sense of identity. And kashrut, keeping kosher, once it became part of the normative Jewish tradition, meant that we had to, everywhere you go, this is a good example. Cheyenne and Denver, the first people who settle, adventurous, and then they get 20 people, they got to have a butcher. So in the old days, even today, Sam, what were you telling me that when you were growing up, your dad, the only way you'd get kosher meat is when your dad went back east?
Yeah, he'd bring a suitcase full of frozen meat home.
Well, I guarantee you, even back then, there was a kosher butcher in Denver. But what has happened is nowadays, in larger cities, there is more available. It's a combination of not just because there's more conservative or Orthodox Jews or people, there's more people who keep kosher. Or they're people who want to keep kosher. I know non-Jews who at least make sure to buy kosher meat. Number 6 is also related to this Kedusha thing. Okay, I don't commit to, this is a quote, somebody is saying, I don't know why, I don't do it because God told me to, but damn it, my grandfather did, right? Or, it's a tradition. So, and let me stop to share for just a sec. Do you know that's an interesting phenomenon? Dave, are you still online? And he stepped away. So because he was recording. There's an interesting phenomenon that
Yeah, I'm here.
okay, I just wanted to know because I don't want to. So 50 years ago, 40 years ago, it was commonplace for there to be Jews who kept kosher, and we haven't done the movements yet, and we don't have to right now. But typically, the first thing to go in terms of assimilation was kosher. My parents grew up in New York. My dad hated my grandmother's cooking. He was the one who was raised kosher. And many Jews, especially New Yorkers, learned pretty quickly that, shrimp wasn't so bad. Pork they wouldn't touch, maybe. But so it was very commonplace And when I was growing up, to have non-kosher food at, let's say, a bar mitzvah. Nowadays, many Jewish community centers, they're not Orthodox. Many Reform synagogues, they're not Orthodox. Conservative synagogues, and our synagogue is a good example. We have a policy that the kitchen is strictly kosher. You can only bring into the kitchen food that is like Rick's, like Amber Dunn's wonderful challah. Rick, don't fall asleep. He's just mellow. But because we're kind of heterodox, the idea is that they can you can bring into the social hall food cooked at home. Many synagogues nowadays will do like a potluck vegetarian dairy from home. Okay, so I digress. Um, this article, even though it's called "Why Keep Kosher," is really quite lengthy, and that it's so download that piece because I will send it again. Now, let's go to the vocabulary. I don't want to dwell on these too long, but kashrut is a noun. You see the screen share again. Kashrut. I keep kashrut, right? That is the system, right? Is that clear? The system of keeping kosher is kashrut. Kasher, the Hebrew word is kasher, Kasher, but it means that which is fit or proper or kosher or allowed. So then what happens is, it's again the Ashkenazi influence. Kasher, the vowel, it becomes an O, so it's kosher. Is it kosher? Kosher, I hear everything from kasher to kosher to kosher, So the opposite of kosher is this word treif, which means in Hebrew meant torn from. So because they couldn't tear a limb, they couldn't just Mr. Cow, cut this leg off and leave the cow to die. It's horrible. I've never seen it done, but the idea is that it has to be prepared in the right manner. So is it kosher or is it treif? Now, if I can be so comedy or glib, you could say, "Oh, you see that movie star? He's treif." It means like he's icky, gross, stay away from him, or they will say sometimes, this is all, colloquial. It's not kosher to do that. People, two businessmen are talking and they'll say, that's not kosher, meaning it's not right. It's interesting how these words have crept into our language. All right, 4, 5, 6. Again, there's Hebrew and there's Yiddish. Since you have the Yiddish here, we'll start with that. Milk products, or this is important, things that have dairy in them, or the dishes, the pots and pans that are used for dairy are called milchik. Milchik or milchig. That's just the way Yiddish works, or German. Those that are made that have he says meat products, that's okay, but meat products or the dishes you use. So the products that have meat in them or have meat byproducts, or also the pots and pans and the dishes. Number 6 is, of course, the word is parva, and parva means neither nor. Doesn't mean, neutral. It more like there's no meat, there's no milk, fruits, vegetables, a chip. Now, there is an element where you have to, if people are strictly kosher, we'll get down to this but in a minute, you have to check the hashgacha, that's the hechsher, rather, is the word for the label. But I check ingredients. Not everybody today checks, is that Frito-Lay? I mean, Coca-Cola, a lot of these products go and get somebody to inspect their factory and they have a label on it. If you go to the store, that's going to be a little thing, a scavenger hunt. Go to the store and see how many products you can find that have a K or an OU on them. You'd be surprised because it's economics. The company wants to make sure that traditional Jews can eat those, and not only Orthodox, but it's there's a lot of lobbying. Okay, so then we're going to get to this number 9 in a minute. So, but back to parva. Let's say I want to just fry an egg. All right. My frying pan's not the best example because my frying pan is always I cook cheese in it or stuff. But if you eat something, just a piece of fruit, and by the way, it makes you might think, well, fish looks like it has flesh. This was a Talmudic discussion. When the Talmud was being written, they looked at land animals, poultry and cows and stuff, and they said, "Well, there's blood there, and there's arteries and veins and heart. We can see that." They noticed there was some kind of liquid in fish, but you and I now know that it's kind of a like flowing, but and there is blood, but had they made fish part in the same category as land animals, people would have a heck of a time. So technically, you could eat gefilte fish is a good example, right? Gefilte fish is all the stuff that they make to make a like a fish cake. It's part of unless it says it's dairy, and then they'll sit down on a Friday night. They'll have gefilte fish and then a meat meal. That's getting into trivia, but some people who are more strict will keep a little separate dish for the fish out of respect. Okay. The person who is I'm rushing through, but I will stop and answer questions. The person who does the slaughter is called a shochet. It's a Hebrew word. And also you may know somebody named Shochet or Shachet. Schachter. My Rebbe, Reb Zalman, his name was Zalman Schachter. So this will get me on a side issue. I'll try not to go down the alley very far. But in the times that they were giving people names, like Berg and Schwartz and Weinstein, they were also people who had occupational names. A Schneider, it means tailor in German. My not my name, my name in Hebrew means a banker or a money changer or someone that deals with the checking account. So, but in Yiddish or in German, it's Wexler. So certain names are occupational names. So a shochet is the butcher. The butcher in the town in those days was a very important man because he was the only one who had knives sharp enough to do what ritual do you think he would do all other than slaughtering the meat? The bris, right? Because he knew he had good knives and he knew. So the shochet had to be a very knowledgeable person. In terms of folklore, maybe because they're dealing with death and blood, in folklore terms, they said, "Oh, he's a butcher," like he's not the nicest guy. You remember in Fiddler on the Roof, one of the matchmaker wants to make a match with the butcher, and she doesn't want to marry him. She wants to marry her boyfriend, her beloved, the tailor who's poor. But the butcher is more well off, but he's a big, gross kind of guy. That's a stereotype. I'm just saying that it's an interesting idea. So 8 is shochet. 7 is the act of slaughtering, shechita. Shechita. Number 9, I don't want to do too long on these, but number 9 is a person who is hired, who is learned, a rabbi, usually Orthodox, who goes into the factory or the a butcher's stuff and checks. I see you got some employees here. They're not Jewish, whatever. But you're supervising them, but they can't eat anything while they're doing the butchery. So that's called a mashgiach. And that leads me to this. When you go to the store, you will look for these kinds of insignias. The best one is UO or OU, Union of Orthodox Congregations. These are labels called a hechsher. These are labels that are put on the food so you know that it's kosher. Now, there's also parva. It will say, okay, this is a great example. Let me just look at you all for a minute. Anybody who wants to not eat a lot of dairy might go and get a non-dairy margarine. But if you look at some of the margarines, they're made with dairy derivatives. So if you wanted to have a piece of toast with some margarine on it and you're eating a meat meal, you want to have a definite parva or non-meat or not, excuse me, non-dairy margarine. So those margarines, again, I look at them on the labels. You can go and see. It says, I don't remember which ones are. Frankly, guys, I don't keep that strictly now. But as I said before, I never eat margarine with a meat meal. I very rarely. Me personally, I eat chicken once in a while, and I cook it in a separate aluminum foil pot. Going back to the chat again. All right, now we're going to get a little complicated. Some of you have you got to do the reading, and we're going to look in a moment at Blech. But I don't want to make it so horrible, that you're going to say, oh, I don't want to ever do that. But okay. If you have Blech, the Idiot's Guide, go to page 241 and 230. Let's do 236. If you have the same edition as me, or it's chapter 18. That's what it is, chapter 18. But hold on, we're not going to do it yet. I'm going to talk first some more, and then I want to, yeah, the kitchen, chapter 18, the kitchen. Okay. Going back to the article, my article here. I'm sending this to you all. This is by Dennis Prager and Joe Telushkin. They were friends in the old days. And he mentions the same things. The major purposes of kashrut are to limit the number of animals Jews are permitted to eat, and so on. So this goes back to what I was saying before about Genesis and Numbers, and Genesis and Adam and Noah. By the time we get to the Mount Sinai, the laws are very specific. It's not just don't eat anything with blood, but clean and unclean. So this is important because some of you are already doing this. There's the biblical level. Well, there's several things from the Torah. Torah says this is clean, this is unclean. They didn't include here the land animals, but any land animal must, oh, it's over here. Land animals, let's see, it's back here. This is only one section. Okay, where is that? Keeping it kosher. Oh, here it is. Okay. So various places. We got Deuteronomy and Leviticus. So Deuteronomy, do not eat any abomination. This is the land animals. We're talking about mammals, big animals, horses and dogs and cats. So we can't eat a cat or a dog, thank goodness for that, or a monkey, right? It's just not, it's not allowed. But the animals that are considered clean are those that have this already, I'm sure, cloven hoof and chews its cud. That does not include horses because horses don't really have a cloven hoof. The pig, there's an old joke that say the pig always sits like this with their hands out. Look at my hoofs. They're not really cloven hoofs. So that's clean and unclean. So what I'm getting at is level one. I'm not saying it's like levels, but the very first idea is this animal clean? Is it permissible? The second level is how is it killed? And the third level is how do you prepare it at home, if that makes sense. So under the meat thing, it's more complex than I can go into tonight. You can eat a bull, a cow, but it's kind of hard to explain. But do you remember the story of Jacob wrestling with the angel, and he pushes on a nerve, the sciatic nerve. It's a big nerve in the leg. So animals have that too, big animals like a steer. So they have to, if you're looking at that part of the animal. Technically, it's a kosher animal, but it is very unusual to find kosher filet mignon, rump roast, leg of lamb. They are available, but they would have to have a butcher that be willing to go in there and remove that uh, the vein, the gid hanasheh, it's called. All right, the main thing with meat is that the blood is removed. Not all the blood, but it's drained and then salted and soaked. And when, again, I said my father didn't like my grandmother's cooking, she wasn't the greatest cook anyway. But aside from that, in the old days, you would go to the store, you go to the butcher, and there would be meat lying there, and you would buy the meat, but you had to take it home and do your own. I know this is gross, but you had to do your own salting and soaking, and you wash the salt, brings the blood up, and then you wash it away. So she would do that, and my dad would complain that it was very dry. Nowadays, you're lucky. You all have to take a trip down to East Side Kosher Deli, and we'll go there after you're baked in. And you can eat to your heart's delight. I don't eat meat, but you can eat beef or chicken. So all those things. In addition, we'll get to that in a minute. You can go to a kosher sushi restaurant in LA, Philly, New York. But so there at the East Side Kosher Deli, it's both a store and a restaurant. I should have made that clear. So you can go and sit and have kosher sushi. Isn't it great? And they have imitation crab. All right, let's get to the fish. This is easy because it's right there in Deuteronomy 14 also. Look up 14, all right? Among that is in the water, anything that has fins and scales. I'm going to look at that little cartoon in a minute. Has to have fins and scales. So that rules out all the shellfish, lobsters, oysters, shrimp, clams. My parents just loved that. They would have parties when their friends were over and they have oysters. It was a big delicacy. But once I started keeping kosher, I would not eat them. I didn't like them anyway. But I remember going out to restaurants with my folks and having lobster tails or shrimp. Since I've been kosher since about 19 years old, it doesn't interest me. But this is weird. Modern authorities debate if swordfish or sturgeon are permissible because they don't have true scales. So another funny story, my ex-wife and I had a friend of ours over for Shabbat dinner years ago in LA. His name was also Moshe. And we said, well, we served him swordfish because I read that the conservative rabbis had ruled, the Rabbis Association ruled, swordfish has scales when they're young. All right. He didn't accept that, and he's correct. I mean, some people do. These days, I don't know any kosher Jews who eat swordfish. But technically, it might be, there's always these minority opinions. I hope you guys realize that. So anyway, we had to go make him tuna fish. All right, the poultry is interesting because it is not. I'll go back up to the cartoon in a minute. They don't say, oh, it must have blue feathers, it must fly, it must do this. It's just they list each animal that they knew, each bird that they knew at that time. It turns out, again, there's no why there. Remember, there's no why. It just is. God said so. But it turns out Maimonides began to notice this, and other people, both the birds and also the fish. The permitted fish and the permitted birds are those that can be, well, let's go back to do the poultry first. They can be domesticated. You don't have to hunt them, and they are not hunters or themselves. You are what you eat. Again, what I'm saying, there is no why, but if you're searching for a why, it has to do with this discipline thing. So, so technically, we don't hunt goose or duck or pheasant, but if you could have a farm, people love it, if you could have a duck farm and then you go out and you grab that duck and you slaughter it, Rick was telling me he wants to study the laws. We'll get to how it's killed in a minute. So let's just go back to One more. Amphibians, reptiles, and most insects. This is where it gets really funny because the Bible actually says you are allowed to eat locusts. Anybody want to speculate why? Why do you think? They were wandering in the desert for 40 years. What the hell are they going to eat? I don't know. So locusts were plentiful. I don't know. I've never seen a kosher restaurant. Hey, would you like some locusts with your meal? You know, they don't do it, but it's technically okay. But no other creepy crawly. All right, now let me show you so the chat is cute because this comes from the Jewish catalog, the original Jewish catalog. So this is and I sent it, I'll send it again. Oh, that's important here. That will show you the slaughtering. So here is the yes, the doves, yes, the hawks, no. Don't worry, guys, I'm not making a political statement, but this was written in the 70s. All right, so tame ducks, tame geese, tame doves. Who would want to eat a dove? My God. But basically capons, chickens, turkeys, even a pigeon. But again, you'd have to have a pet pigeon, a pigeon farm. Um, uh, Jamie and Devin, we're not gonna set up a kosher slaughtering house at your house. We love your chickens. They have chickens for eggs. But
Rabbi, what about reptiles like snakes since they have scales?
I thought I said okay, reptiles go into the same category as
Okay.
as anything that crawls on the ground. Creepy crawly, lizards, snakes. No, yeah, I know snakes. Some people eat snakes when they go hunting and stuff. You'd have to be very, very, there's another rule. We talked about this, pikuach nefesh. If you were stuck in the desert and you couldn't eat anything else, you could do that. I think there was a scene in The Frisco Kid where Harrison Ford's character is eating a snake. They fry it up, and the rabbi played by Gene Wilder won't touch it. But there again, these birds that are mentioned in the Leviticus right there, Leviticus 11, are all scavengers, killers. In terms of the fish, again, there's no why, but it turns out that here's your snake, even though it's a fish, but the fish that are allowed are all these over here, fins and scales. Salmon, my favorite, porgy, red snapper, flounder. So this will be what's available in a kosher restaurant or that. Now, the question is again, if you go to a regular store and you buy those, that's acceptable. A really kosher person wants to know that the kosher butcher doesn't, the difference between a kosher butcher and a regular going to the supermarket is that that their knives were only used for the fish and not for meat. Over here is the no fish, snap, snap, snap with the claws, octopus, shrimp, crab, scallops, and so on. I've never known anybody eat a turtle, but that's where we get this idea. Catfish look like a fish, but they do not have the scales and they're bottom feeders. They eat poopy, So, but by the way, here in this is all in this text. Fish, any variety of fish that has both fins and scales is considered kosher, right? So it's parva, but you generally don't cook it with meat. You eat it like it generally could be either way, but I will typically have it in a dairy meal. Let's go to this part, which is a little more detailed. This is how because it was a very good graphic when I had it. This is the soaking and the salting. But as I said before, you don't have to do it. It's done by the butcher today. Does anybody ever heard? Here's another section. Has anybody ever heard of glatt kosher? Sam, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you get into strictness. What's strict? So kosher, this is the same as the other, but it's a little more detailed. Kosher from Yiddish, from the Hebrew kasher, right? Proper, sanctioned by Jewish law. Okay, so the more strict people, it's both okay. It's kosher, but more strict people, the butcher will go and check the organs of the animal. That the glatt means smooth. It's glatt, it's smooth, it's suave. So you will see that on some items. Glatt kosher means that everything has been inspected to the detail. So we have here the same things as before. Circle OU. OUD, it might say OUD, it might say OUP, but P would not mean Passover. It would have to say Passover. Otherwise, you would think it's P for parva. Let's see. We have those. Poultry. So again, I don't want to gross you out or go into the details, but the actual slaughtering is, I said before, the butcher has a sharp knife. The knife has to be really sharp. I keep my cutting knives in my kitchen, very sharp, because I like to cut vegetables. I'm a fast, that's how I cut. But the butcher's knives are even sharper than that. And the kill is made across the shechita is done across the neck. It could be said that this is an interesting argument. Is kosher any more humane than, yeah, you're looking at the matzahs. Yeah, I see Emily's looking at the matzahs. But kosher for Passover gets into another level of detail, because that has to do with, does it have any bread products in it? What was I saying? Not kosher. Oh shoot, the blood. The draining of the blood. Oh, okay. So both meat or poultry, they drain the blood out. So this is a level of more strict. By the way, this is a sociological thing also. In the early days of the Hasidic movement in Russia, there was like not a union, but this food is kosher, the butcher's kosher, and then the Hasidic community would start, and they would have arguments in the town. Our butcher is more kosher than your butcher. Our rabbi says Shabbat begins this time, and so it became kind of an argument between people. Okay, but more on now we get to the preparation, your preparation at home. This is where it's not as hard as you might think, but it's also hard if you need me there. If one of you were to say, I want to kosher the kitchen. Kosher is the verb to make it kosher. We do this at Pesach. We have at the synagogue stainless steel counters, and most industrial kitchens have that. If you move into a new apartment, I always look to see, does it have a stainless steel sink? Strictly speaking, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, but some of my friends, if they rent or buy a house or buy an apartment, if it has a porcelain sink, they put a tub in the sink, and they have a green tub for dairy or blue, and then a red tub for meat, and they can use that. But they can also, by the way, you can't eat rabbit, Jamie. Yeah, I mean, well, because it's not cloven hoof. It's more of a rabbit is a rodent, essentially. I mean, all those things. So koshering is a little bit harder than for the average person, but this is going back to what I'm talking about with some of you. Let's say you decided that you want to start a semblance of kosher. I'm not preaching, I'm just saying if you wanted to, you could say, and some of you already have, no puerco. All right, we're going to start by cutting out pork or cold cuts, that are over the counter. In this area, you frankly can't find any kosher meat that's except for the cold cuts. You can find what is it? What's the hot dog company?
Hebrew National.
Hebrew National.
Hebrew National is kosher. Yeah, but it's processed. Yeah. Um, so my dream would be for us to establish a kosher co-op where we could order Eastside Kosher Deli will deliver all the way up here, a little bit extra, or once a month, somebody drives down there and they have the order from the rabbi and Weinstein and whoever else that they get from, like Sam was talking about his father. And I managed to do that very easily with the food with ice on top of it. But I'm not telling you what to do. But if you, the first thing you might want to do is go to the level 1 that I said before, clean, unclean, you know? So, and then I think Rick told me that you've already, I don't want to label anybody. Maybe it was Rick, maybe it was somebody else, said you don't mix milk and meat. Is that true? Who said that? Don't eat milk, meat. Yeah, Rick, it was Rick. So a cheeseburger, you know, and that's, I didn't cover that as far as the Torah. It is interesting. What happens is this grows over time. So the first level is clean and unclean. Then it says, thou shalt, this is only one place, thou shalt not see the kid in its mother's milk. Well, that is literally, you know, don't put the goat into the, you know, make beef stroganoff or whatever, goat stroganoff. So that was I think it was a custom in ancient days to eat that way, to say, I have the life and I have the flesh and everything belongs to me. The Jews did not, because they looked at it and it's just symbolic. Um, the mother's milk is life, and the flesh and the blood is death. Not literally, but so we can't mix those two things. There's other customs like you're not supposed to mix two fabrics of certain kinds, wool and flax or linen and stuff. So there's a separation that goes back to the discipline point. All right, let me see if there's anything else from that share. Why keep kosher? Okay. Questions? Questions? Anybody? All right. Let's look at, go back to the chat and, well, actually, some of this is going to be reviewed, but let's do this article from the Denver group. Share screen chapter 11. Everything is here. Everything, I sent you guys everything. So this is from Denver. Can you see that? So this is ways to start. Let's see, I'll go back to the very top. Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to cover blessings too. There's some great articles here that you can read. So I'll start back here. This is a different version of the same material. And it's really kind of cool, but I wanted to show you the short version. Okay, reverence for life, Jewish distinctiveness, mindful consumption. Now we get to the issue of physical health. Again, the classic position is God said so, right? So you could argue, well, now we have refrigeration. Pigs aren't going to give you trichinosis. Too bad. The Torah decided it was unclean. So, and this is a big discussion. Why any mitzvah? Why do we not use a pencil on Shabbat? You know, it's the extension of its pencil represents work. So the idea of saying that there's a reason is, or you don't need the reason, but Maimonides himself said that the pork is dirty, you know. But so, and the same thing goes for circumcision, by the way. They used to say a circumcised man is healthier. You won't pass on some sort of disease to yourself or your lover. That is no longer so true because you can clean yourself. But so if you go down the health thing, then somebody's going to come along and say, you know, oh, wait a minute, you know, that's no longer the case. Now we have we have antibiotics and stuff like that. We wash ourselves. So, but here it is. So these are the things, again, this is repeating: ox, sheep, goat, deer, gazelle, and even an antelope could be eaten, again, if you had somebody there who could only kill it through this way. Try grabbing a sheep, or a sheep, yeah, but try grabbing an antelope. No camels, no rabbits, all right? The pig, of course. Here it is, fins and scales for the fish. The bird, now, as I said before, I'm repeating myself, but the bird is specific, they listed. But again, it's interesting. As I said, it's something that is a bird that is a killer is not allowed. Again, the Torah doesn't say that. Oh, I have a tame hawk. Can I eat that? No, it's still a hawk. I want to eat the owl that I adopted. They're considered birds of prey. So again, the Torah does not say why, but it's interesting that, and it makes sense that the only animals or the only poultry are those that don't fly very far. A chicken or a turkey, and they walk around, so they're domesticated. That's my analysis. Domesticated, if you want to go sociological again or anthropological. What time? It's only 8 o'clock. All right, now let's go. This is what I meant before with the cow. These are the areas that are not allowed. All right, so but it's quite complex. I don't know if they covered that here. Okay, let's do this. Do not kill. See the kid in its mother's milk. There it goes. This is there again. A why? Well, you're cruel, says Philo of Alexandria, Greek times. Maimonides says it was probably idolatry, right? They don't be like the pagans. Milgram more recently suggested this is what I said: life sustaining. It's just the mother. Don't make the mother symbolically, be with her child, her birth. Okay, here's the oh good. This is, I forgot that this was Hebrew too. So Fleischig is the Yiddish. If you talk to Noam Bissari is basar is meat. Remember that means the products, the ingredients, or the dishes. Now, this is a quiz. We get to this. And just write this down because you'll see it in the writing as well. The traditional waiting period between eating dairy and meat is, anybody? Milk to meat.
2 hours.
Nope. It would be nice, but they figured it's how long does it stay in your stomach? What, Rick? Were you doing something?
3 to 6.
10 minutes. 10 minutes. But let's say I ate a piece of cheese or I served something that had dairy in it, like an Indian meal or something, yogurt. Then what you would technically do is you wait 10 minutes, you go and brush your teeth. So it's because, and again, they just think about chemistry. How long does it stay in your stomach? You and I know it stays in your stomach a while longer. But from milk to meat it could be most people wait a half an hour. All right. So just so you know, but that's why it's better and easier. I'm not telling you what to do again. I'm saying it's just typical is you say, we're going to have a dairy meal. We're going to serve cheese or eggs or fish. I mean, or milk products, or we're going to have a meat meal. So when I have some kosher chicken that I cooked the other day. I've been wanting to finish it. I have a couple of thighs that are cooked. And every time I think about cooking it, I say, well, wait a minute. Now that means I can't cook anything in my milk dishes. So it's fine. It'll be fine another day or two. Now, this is where it gets interesting between meat and dairy. And I'm going to just recording it. So the most strict people wait 6 hours. 6. That's the Russians, the Hasidic, the true Orthodox, but the liberal Orthodox and the German position is 3 hours. All right. The most liberal position of these three, and they're all acceptable, some Sephardic Jews are the ones from Spain that, original, wait only 1 hour. So, you have to, that's where it gets into the keeping the dishes separate. Gets complicated, but I'll just go through it. All metal dishes, like a frying pan. No, not a frying pan. All metal, I'll say, metal silverware. It's completely usable. You could put it in boiling water, but typically what people do when they have a kosher kitchen is they say, this design of silverware or dish that goes in this drawer or this cabinet. So they will have milk dishes that are one pattern and meat dishes that are another pattern. But all metal can be koshered by just putting it in the dishwasher. However, if it has a wooden handle, no, because the wood still absorbs. It's the idea of its chemistry. It absorbs. Let's get to glass. I ate something on glass. My grandmother had glass dishes, so I inherited all those glass dishes. I only use them for dairy, but technically I could put them in the dishwasher because boom, it's done. So think of the boiling water idea. It's very important. Ceramic does absorb, so it is not usable with both. All right, here's a more common hechsher. Hechsher means the insignia. OU, OK, K, standard K. This V is the Va'ad, the committee, a certain committee. And there is some finances involved. I'm not saying, it's a big deal. It's no kickbacks, but the mashgiach who comes in and inspects the food gets paid. All right. So let's see. We just did that one. More on this. All right, hunting for hectares. I think we're done. Oh, I do not have time for this one. Reading Why I Became a Shochet. Very interesting guy. I think he's now moved. I think he's in Denver, in Venice now. Botnick. Okay, when you do below, this is good because now we're getting to the blessings, and I have this in another version that I sent you. That's a picture. It's a cute picture of things. Let's do blessings. But first, again, questions, guys. Going fast here. Any questions about kashrut? Does it make you feel holier? Yes. Does it make you feel separate? Yes. It's a little bit harder, but it's a very rewarding thing. Oh, this is what I wanted. Oh, I can show you either one. I got them both up there. Let's do this one, the pretty one with the pictures. Is that showing up yet? Let's see. Share screen. And again, all this I sent to you. So we're segueing from kosher to food in general. Why do we say after services, we go into the sanctuary and we do the kiddush, the blessing on the wine, and then we do the blessing on the bread, the challah, the amber. Okay, so that's because that goes back to last week. On Shabbat, you would typically have a home meal, you light the candles, you sing the Kiddush, you eat the bread, and then you begin the meal. So we do that at the synagogue because that's how it became a part of the tradition, as if we're eating a meal. Technically, if we eat bread, we should say afterwards a long prayer, the blessing after meals, the Birkat Hamazon, but I'm not going to do that today. So here's some trivia for you. So those two you may know. So here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. That is only on, notice they have the wine or the grape juice or the grapes, but not when you eat grapes. Even so, it's fruit of the vine, but it's only for grape products, grape juice or wine, not for it technically maybe for champagne. Over here is Borei, by the way, means creator, creates, who creates. Borei Pari Ha'etz. We will have in February, we'll have a Tu B'Shvat Seder where we celebrate the trees. And so this is a blessing on any fruit that grows on the tree, including grapes. Okay. But technically tomato is, I think that's an apple, but tomato is considered a fruit. But so any kind of fruit. But let me come back to that. Let's do moti. Y'all know it, but let's Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz, and so on. Okay, so because of the way things were in the ancient world and even today, you begin the meal by breaking bread. So bread, or starting a meal with even a little tiny piece of bread, covers all the other blessings. Am I making myself clear? You don't have to do, here's a blessing on a grape, a blessing on an orange, a blessing on a banana, a blessing on carrots. So, so you do that one blessing, it covers all the rest. But let's say you were sitting down, and having only, potatoes, or over here to this one, far right corner, pari ha-adama. Let's say that word, adama.
Adama.
Adam, right? Adam, the human from the earth. So I had a prayer book when I was becoming Orthodox that actually had pictures of everything. And it's trivial, it's interesting because a watermelon, you think of it like a fruit, but it grows on the ground. Ah. So the two more categories. This category, far left, upper left-hand corner, any kind of grain, any kind of item that's made with grain but is not bread. I think it has to do with the yeast, but maybe Amber would be able to explain this better than I do. But cookies, pretzels, biscuits, pasta, a cupcake is called borei mine mizonot. So when I fly with El Al, or any airline, I ask for a kosher meal, technically you need to get up, wash your hands ritually, sit down, eat the bread, and then you got to do the whole long blessing after the meal. So what they did was they said, look, this is they were smart. The kosher customers get a biscuit that is technical, and it'll be labeled. It'll say this is mizonot. You don't have to do the motzi. You do this blessing because maybe it's more like a scone. I don't know. The last category is the everything else category. Let's try this together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Same 6 words, always same 6 words. Shehakol nihi bidvaro. That everything comes to being through your word. And that is, even though I love eggs, right? Or a piece of cheese, something, even meat. Meat is substantial. Chicken. If you're not eating any bread, you just say shahakol. So it's an interesting issue. But okay, one more screen share. Is it this KASHRUT? Yes, I think that was the end of that one. Oops. Oh, I got to stop that share to do the other share. KASHRUT. Why keep kosher? Oh no, it keeps on coming up. All right, I'm shut those all out. All right, let's try this. And kosher terms, kosher reasons, kosher scavenger hunt. I think we've covered almost everything I wanted to. Oh no, we got to do the Jewish home, so we better get to that. Okay, but because that's important for a lot of you. Have been asking me about that. Very important. Did I do that in here? Jewish home. Okay. That is what time we got? Oh, 2015. All right. Am I going too fast? You have questions, I know. Okay. All right. Mezuzah and what makes a Jewish home. That was in the email. Mezuzah. Come on, download. Oh, there it is. Mezuzah. And I'll put that in the chat too. And And also, what was the other one? What makes a Jewish home? This is maybe more lighthearted. Um, Preview. Okay. Um, let's do
Voice.
what makes a Jewish home, a home Jewish. Um, who's been to my house? Devin and Jamie have been over. Rick was over, but we didn't spend a lot of time in the living room. I'm not a great example, but a lot of the artwork that I have. Oh, there it is. Okay. Um, it is on there. It is down there. It's in the chat. It's under, let's see. Oh, I see what happened. Yeah, okay. Yes. I'm going to add this. It was not in the first batch. Okay. What makes a Jewish home and what about the mezuzah? So I should start with the mezuzah, but I want to start with some other things. There are several customs. They're not requirements, they're customs. I have in my house several amulets. I'm not superstitious, and I mean, God, horrible things are going to happen if you don't keep this up. But there is a custom of having an object called a mizrach, an eastern wall. Tells me that's an eastern wall because they pray towards. Somebody said yes. Yes. Okay. Or you could have a family. I have in my doorway entrance to the house on a post. I have a little hand. Have any of you seen the little hand called a hamsa? So these are folklore. They're not requirements, but they're folklore. You might want to find Jewish art to put in the house. What item stereotypically would every Jewish home have? Not a mezuzah. I'm going inside the home. What might you have? Give you a hint. Uh,
Jewish blessing.
a Hanukkah menorah, huh? What? Oh, a blessing. Yeah, blessing's good. But a Hanukkah menorah, a Chanukiah, is a typical thing to find in a Jewish home. And each of you may want to, if you don't have one already, or from your parents or grandparents, you may want to go and look for one. And I have several. I have mine, and then I inherited some from my parents. I once knew a great potter did a really cool circular menorah, and it had oil. You put it in wicks, and you pick up the little pot and you pour it into light each one, but it goes round. It's not a typical like this. So they like that very much. And when they died, my sister gave it to me. But let's get to the mezuzah. And so let's put that up. Mezuzah is again a word that is hard to translate. It means something like sign. And it is not, this is an interesting way of putting it. You all can see, okay? Let me get all this crap out of the way here. The idea that it does not say in the Torah, it says in the Torah, you should take these words and bind them on your arm, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. So right there in the paragraph of the Ve'ahavta. They took it literally. Okay. So they didn't say, okay, write, Shema Yisrael on your doorpost. So the custom, I'm sure I don't have one to show you here. I have them at the synagogue. I used to keep one at home. On my door of each door in my house. I'll get to which doors in a minute. But so it is a scroll that's written. It cannot be copied. It's not, here it is. Mezuzah is of biblical origin, therefore carries weight. You shall inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. What is inscribed? The mezuzah has come to refer to the klaf. Klaf, K-L-A-F, means the parchment. So if you go to, let's say, online or to a kosher a gift store, if you go to our gift store and you buy the holder, that's not a mezuzah. That's a mezuzah holder. So it looks pretty, but you have to make sure to buy a kosher cloth. It means that it is, I mean, we talked about uh, Hebrew a little bit. A scribe sits there and writes it, and it's about size of, let's stop share for a second. It's about a scroll about that big, all right, about 2 by 3, tiny letters, but there actually are handwritten. You roll it up. I will show. I'll come to your house and you roll it up so that it's showing on the back side. There's a giant shin, and that shin has to face out. So technically, you don't need the case, the holder, but to protect it. So you could actually take just the scroll, roll it up in uh, saran wrap, and post it at the door. Where do mezuzahs go? Let's try it Socratic. Who knows? Where do mezuzahs go?
Doorways
Be more specific. What kind of doorways?
facing outside.
Be a little more specific.
Everywhere but the bathroom,
Right. Not bathrooms. This is right here.
not closets.
Okay, it's affixed to the doorpost as you enter the door. Who knows what they had back in those days, tents or something, but if it has a doorway with a door, then it is considered a doorway. Oh yeah, Rick's going to his door. All right, let's see what you oh, I thought, were you doing that to check it? Rick, unmute. All right, anyway.
No, I don't. I was
Oh,
gazing on the
okay.
fridge.
All right, so bathroom, for obvious reasons, it's not a clean place, but it's not a living room. It's not a room you live in unless you sleep in your bathroom for some reason. A closet, a laundry room, a boiler room, and so on. Also, a mezuzah is not necessary. Let's say you have a dining room, living room combo dish, the archway. Do not need to put a mezuzah in there. It's only when it's entering and leaving. So it goes in on the right side. I'm going to be reversed on the right side of the doorway. And if, let's say, it's an outside door, you find a place to put it. But on an outdoor, my door, I have to open the door to see the mezuzah there. It's not hanging outside. You'll see that on some places. Back in LA, I used to move into an apartment and there'd be a mezuzah there because the person who lived there before me was a Jew. Could have been interesting. But
Sit.
I'm not preaching, tell you what to do. A lot of people think, all we need is one mezuzah. Technically, no, you need one on. But guess what, Devin? You don't need them on the chicken coop.
But all the doors that go outside, right?
The doors that come inside on the entering. So then when people walk in, you'll see in
Right,
the movie,
right.
yeah, they touch it and kiss, like I'm blessing God. Now, what it means, traditionally is this is God guarding your house. Again, I'm not trying to tell you a booba
That's
mice.
remnant
Huh?
of
What's
the
that?
plagues. Remnant of the plagues.
Oh, yeah, that's also related. It could be related to the 10 plagues,
Okay.
right? The idea of putting the blood on the house, but it's not mentioned that way. It just says you put a guardian. But what is the mezuzah? As I said, it's the Shema, the Ve'ahavta, and the other 2 paragraphs all laid out. Now, if I were to say what time we got, 8:27. I do believe in certain things, but some people will say this: if you you just had the baby, right? Make sure that you check the mezuzah on the have a doorway into the nursery. Make sure that the mezuzah is kosher. You should check your mezuzahs, bring them to a scribe every 5 years. I mean, nobody has problems with it. It doesn't rot. But if you had it like when I moved here, I took all my, this is also important. When you move, you take your mezuzahs down. You remove it with a little file or something, and you take it with you. So I brought my mezuzot here. I had several of them. And when we had my Chanukot Habayit, house dedication, open house, and Dave was here, and I remember I had Dave hammer. It's nice tradition to have different people come in, and it's partly in the wall, and they say, hey, come and take a little knock with the hammer. So you hammer it into the top. And I'll end with this really cute story. Why do we lean it? Why is it going like this? Oh, what was a hand? Rick?
So is a barbecue kosher ever?
Oh, okay. Going back to kashrut. Um, yes, you could do that if you. The problem is it has to do with the type of. If you've used it for trace before, it's not.
Never used it.
If you
It's
bought a
in the
brand
box.
new one, if you bought a brand new barbecue and you made kosher chicken or kosher beef on it and nothing else, it would be kosher. Yes.
Okay.
Or fish. I used to love. I had a little what are the things called? Hibachis, and I would make the fish in the backyard.
So that's not part of the kosher kitchen, or is it different?
Well, it's still you're still eating from it. So yes, I mean you don't bring it into the kitchen, but it's
Right.
harder frying pans and um
It's a grill.
rotisserie.
It's a flat grill.
It's flat, yeah, but it can only be used for that type of food.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you didn't say I'm gonna, put a cheese on my cheeseburger.
No, no.
Okay,
It's too
Devin,
expensive.
Jamie, what's up? Got your hand up too.
So, somewhere along the lines, we saw a mezuzah for a car. Is that like a
No,
legit thing?
no. It's a cutie thing. Yeah, when people
cute.
were searching, the same thing with amulets, people were searching for something to wear, and there is a Jewish star or a chai. That's great. Good question. A chai is the life, chet yud, and that's something that maybe would be appropriate to give somebody who just became a Jew. I believe when you go to the Beit Din in Denver, they give you they give you a mezuzah, I think. But let's say you could go to you get online to a Jewish gift shop and get a necklace of a chai. Somebody got smart, and just like with Catholics, the Saint Christopher, uh, it's nice. It's a nice little good luck charm. But wearing a mini little mezuzah around your neck is not necessary. It's cute. All right, so I was going to tell you a story. So nobody knows why. I don't know if it's going to come out right, but the doorway is here. It's the right side, the lintel, a third of the way down, or two-thirds of the way up. By the way, if you have a little person, it's cute to say, "Oh, look, mommy, I've got my own mezuzah." They have mezuzahs that are made that look like little cowboys or helicopter or something, but inside is the scroll. So the kid, you can put it lower for them because they want to be able to touch it and kiss it when they come in and out. But typically it is two-thirds of the way up and leaning in so that the top side is facing the entrance the way you go. Sure, you exit the room, but what is the dominant way of coming? You say coming into the room. All right, so here's the story. There was once, this is just a tale, a folk tale. There was once a rabbi in one of those villages in Russia or Poland, and he said to everybody, "Look, folks, this is what we do. We need to put mezuzahs on all of our doors." And they began arguing. Some people said, "You're going to lie down." It says when you rise up and when you lie down. When you rise up and you lie down. So one group of people said it's got to be upright because you're upright. You're standing up. So that was why they voted and they argued. And another group said, "No, you're lying down. It's in the bedroom when you lie down. Put it this way." And the rabbi threw up his hands and said, "Okay, we'll split the difference. We'll go this way." So we're leaning in. That's just a cute story. I just think it's fascinating. So to conclude, and we're over time, I hope the election's going well. I haven't looked at it in a while. To conclude, this whole evening, last week too, also is about ways to make your life meaningful and holy and special. I know I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I know that Emily's like really into this whole, I want to, and you might find yourself saying, "Oh, gee, let's go. We want to be super kosher. Take it slow. Take Shabbat slow. take one mitzvah for Shabbat and say, all right, we will not, I don't know, please drive to synagogue. We need you. but we could say, honey, we can't have an argument on Shabbat, or we can't make a purchase on Shabbat. Things like that. So you might decide that. As I said before, with regard to kashrut, you might say, pork and shellfish is out. That's your decision. The other things I wanted to show you is this was from the Denver group, the scavenger hunts. We don't have time to do them, but go to the store and look for some of these items. There's number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, and they're really cool. For example, find cookies that are dairy. Find a bottle of dairy salad dressing. Well, that's easy because you look for a dressing that has cheese or something. Oh, I should have covered. There's 2 more things covered. And Devin and Jamie know this. Because of the prohibition about blood, it is part of kashrut. I'm not going to tell you must. When I would buy eggs at the store, I never bothered to check them. But now that I'm getting your homegrown eggs, I have found a couple of blood spots. So you've helped me to become more kosher. But it's a level of how strict are you? My friends, Fran and Joel, they both grew up, his father was a rabbi, she grew up conservative, and I do this too now. So I crack one egg at a time. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just saying, because I inspect for blood spots. If it has a blood spot, it's not, the whole bowl is trafe. Just throw
Can't
it.
you check?
What's
Can't you
that?
check that? Can't you use a light to check that? Isn't that how they do it?
A light?
Industrial. Yeah.
Inside? You can't go inside the shell.
No, you use a light, and then you look through the egg, and you can see a blood spot.
Yeah, and
Just to see
technically,
if there's an embryo.
I suppose you could. No, but it's just a spot. It's because it began to become fertile. The second thing again, these are levels of more strict. Cheese. Wow. Cheese. What am I supposed to do? Okay, so cheese is made with some sort of an agent that helps it to curdle. Cottage cheese, not so much. Sour cream, not so much, but actual hard cheeses. Down at the East Side Kosher Deli, you will see this. There's cheese that is made that is rennetless. Rennet is the ingredient. Oh, the cat wants to eat you. I knew you had a cat too. Someday I'm going to get a cat again or two. Yeah. Hi. Look at that. Anyway, so those are levels of kashrut that might be not necessarily that you're ready for, but you need to know that what is this thing? It says Chalav Yisrael. Chalav Yisrael cheese means cheese that is made without rennet, and it'll have a little insignia on it. So these are not higher levels, more strict levels. All right. We're out of time, but I'll open for a question or two.
I have a question on the Birkat Hamazon.
Okay.
Is that meant to be after every meal?
After a meal that involved bread, yes.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hazan. Yeah, but it's long, and what's fun is I first learned it at a Reform summer camp, and then I learned when I was ready, when I went to Israel, became Orthodox. It's longer. It's several paragraphs. Were you there when we had a Shabbat morning? We had a Shabbat meal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's like six paragraphs. It's pretty, but I can't cover this tonight. There is an acceptable, permissible, shorter version. Goes like this: Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, bara dahai pita. That's it. It's Aramaic. It's the same as the motzi, who creates this fruit. So it's called the Birkat Hamazon for people in a rush. Yeah, so it's acceptable. But the idea, just to finish up, I told you the story about the mezuzah. I met a guy it's Michael Mayer, not Michael Meyer, the comedian. And Michael is my age or a little older. He's not a super Jew. He's a Tai Chi master. And we were at a retreat together with, 200, 300 people, a Jewish retreat. And we were out in the fields, and it was going to be Shabbat dinner, I believe. It might have been Shabbat, might have been a regular evening, but it was a special meal. And we were doing Tai Chi. So I was doing my Tai Chi, and he was doing he showed me his form. So about a half an hour out in the field, and I was really like spiritually uplifted. I mean, he's a master. And so then we went inside, we sat down to eat, and he goes like this. Can you see me? Over there. Okay. So he puts his hands over the food, and you will see people do this. Sometimes they'll put their hands over a person, right? Jamie knows what I'm talking about because we're both New Agers, bless you. So I said, "What are you doing, Michael?" He said, "I'm chi-ing my food." He said he didn't do the traditional blessing, motzi and all that. He just, I take my hands and I send the energy of the universe into the food, or I send the energy back into from the world, from the farmer back into it. And so it's a form of blessing. I've seen this with many different groups, with Indians, Native Americans, New Age people will sometimes do that. And I'm a Reiki master. I mean, I do hands-on healing with people. So don't chew your food, chi your food, was what Michael used to say. All right, guys, Laila Tov. Next week is the topic for next week. We got one more, I think, on ritual stuff. Let me see where, what was that? Oh, and this is being taped, so I will get this to you. I did not look at my Jewish learning because it's almost the same stuff, but look at that, the material from my Jewish learning. Make my Jewish learning your friend. Use that stuff. Read up. So what was for next week? Oh wait, we don't have meetings in the next week. We will be covering, oh boy, this is a great topic. God and theology. Unless you say, Rabbi, I really want to do history, but I think at this point we should talk about what is this prayer? What does it mean? And so I'll send you material on that. Then we go into 3 weeks of solid history. If you don't own Stan Mack yet, buy it. Gotta get it because it's fun. Whoops, sign that out. Okay. This one. Everybody has this? Okay. And read the chapters on God and Pelushkin too, and in both Blech, and read everything you get your hands on about God. Go have an interview with God. Have a personal experience with Hashem. All right. Laila Tov, everybody. And since I'm kind of hung out with yoga, namaste. All right.
Night.
All right, I'm gonna get the recording so that Taylor will have it too. All right. Thank you, Dave. Now, Dave recorded it to the, what do you call it, to the cloud, and I recorded it to me, and we'll send both. Okay. Bless you. Thank you very much, Dave.
Sure.
For coming back. All right. Good night, Rabbi.